Hello everybody, my name is Colleen and welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to work on a few different recipes that I hope to be able to get to you really soon, because I think they're things that you could use during this difficult time that we're facing right now. The camera work may not be the best and the lighting may not be perfect, but I do hope that you'll find these things useful to you. It will take me a little getting used to look in the right place and to talk to you through the camera's lens, but I promise that I will do my darndest to get there. So one of the things that I was asked recently about, and I hadn't really considered because it's something I've known for a long time, but maybe you don't know that self-rising flour is different from cake flour or bread flour or all-purpose or whole wheat flour. And sometimes a recipe will call for it. Something like maybe a scone recipe or muffins or something will call for this particular blend of flour, self-rising. So this is how easy it is for you to make self-rising flour. It's 1 cup of flour, 1.5. Now these are the measurements. If they call for 3 cups of self-rising flour or 4 or 5, then you know that you need to add multiply this number up. We need 1.5. Now I shouldn't have done it that way, and I'm going to back up and I'll explain why I shouldn't have done it that way. That wasn't very good of me. So let me back up. So first, into our measuring cup, and I just put it in the wrong way, but that's okay. We're going to measure into a 1 cup measure, dry measure, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then we're going to fill the rest of this with flour. Sorry, what a mess. It's real life, what can I say? Fill the cup with flour. Don't pack it down, just spoon it in. Probably like you were taught in high school. We want to spoon it in, and then we're going to level it off with a knife, the back of a knife, because I think we're there. And that will give you 1 cup of self-rising flour that you can use in whatever recipes that they call for it. And I'll be back in a moment with some more tips. So here I am back with another blend of things to use. It is, this time I'm working on the Italian dressing mix. And I will be referring to my notes because I want to make sure that I'm getting all these quantities correct. And because this makes a big amount, it's quite useful in our kitchens. This Italian dressing mix could be used for a dip by adding mayonnaise and milk or buttermilk, which would probably be my preference. Or it can be used mixed with oil and vinegar to make a dressing for your salad. So I'll go over that with you. So we need a tablespoon of garlic powder. This makes quite a bit, so if this seems to be a little daunting for you, then definitely cut the recipe in half. So there's 2 tablespoons of garlic powder. Now if you get this minus a little bit or a little bit more, it's really not going to make that much of a difference, so don't worry about it. Now some onion powder. You know what, I'm going to take some of that garlic powder back. In fact, I'm going to start that over. Okay, welcome back. Here we go on our second seasoning blend. This one is an Italian dressing mix. You could use this mixed with mayonnaise and milk to make a nice fresh dressing or a nice fresh dip, or you could use it with oil and vinegar to make a nice dressing for a salad. This makes quite a bit, so I am going to start off you serious? This is garlic salt. So this is the second one of these mixes that we're going to prepare today. And I am referring to my notes because I want to get all of these amounts correct for you so that you have a really good result. So first thing into the bowl, I've already added 1 tablespoon of garlic powder. Now I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of onion powder. A tablespoon of white sugar. I'm sure that when our grandmothers were, or mothers were cooking in the war years, they certainly didn't have as many spices to choose from as we do today. So I'm going to look for a few dressing mixes that they may have been able to come up with what they had as well. Maybe I'll find an old cookbook and be able to go from there. So 1 tablespoon of white sugar, 2 tablespoons of dried oregano. So 2 tablespoons of dried oregano, which I think will finish off this bag. Yep, well, more or less. Probably a little more than less, but there you go. 1 teaspoon of pepper, just good old black ground pepper. I found that this bargain brand is quite coarse. I probably would not buy it again just for that reason. So 1 teaspoon, so I better half that of black pepper. 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme. My little, ooh, that's dangerous, pouring it over the pot, isn't it? Teaspoon of basil. I know that many of you may not know me, but those that do would know that I have a particular fondness for anything that has a bird on it. So I found these really adorable little measuring spoons with birds on them when I was on a trip to the island to visit with my brother a couple of years ago, and I use them all the time for everything. They're fantastic. Now into this we need a tablespoon of dried parsley, a 1/4 teaspoon of celery salt, and then the last thing to go in here is 2 tablespoons of salt. Honestly, I found that too salty. That's the recipe, and I found that too salty. So I'm just going to add 1. You can adjust that, as I said, adjust it to suit your own needs. But I found it a little too much. So those are all the things that go into making an Italian seasoning mix. And this is an interesting mix of things to do because, of course, we've got the parsley and the basil leaves in there, and they want to sit on top of the salt. So make sure when you go to scoop this out that you give it a good stir first, and that you're getting a pretty uniform mix on your spoon as you do that. So in order to use this seasoning blend that we've just made here, if you were going to use it for a dressing for your salad, you're going to add 1/4 cup of white vinegar and 2/3 cup of canola or any good vegetable oil, or whatever oil you would normally use for a salad dressing. So if that's olive oil or avocado oil, by all means, whatever satisfies you, that's what you should use. I think recipes are guidelines unless you're baking, and then you better stick to them. But this is a way that we can produce food that we enjoy and know what goes into it. It's really difficult lots of times to find packaged food that doesn't have a whole bunch of things on it that you can't say. So in this Italian seasoning mix, you saw everything that went into it. It's pretty easy peasy. There's no monosodium nothings or dioxides or things that we can't or pronounce or shouldn't eat. So that's number 2. That this is the Italian dressing mix. And with all of the recipes, I'll be putting them in the description below. And now on to the next one. Well, here I am back again. I am working this time on a taco seasoning blend. Now this one, again, you could go to the store and you could buy the taco mix. It doesn't even cost a whole lot. It's, you know, a few bucks. But if you can't get out to the store to make that purchase, then this is how you could do it in your own home with spices that you should have in your kitchen pantry. So to start this one off, we're going to start off with a tablespoon of chili powder. There's something about doing these blends without having all the additional stuff in it that's just very satisfying. We're going to add some garlic powder. Just 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. There's something to be said for having a pantry. It's certainly helping us to get through these times, and I do hope that it will inspire you a little bit to start a pantry, even if it's a small one of your own. Then we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder, 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Now my husband and I don't normally add red pepper flakes because he doesn't care for the heat. But he's going to be surprised by this batch, I guess, because I think most people would add it, so I'm going to do that. Then 1/4 teaspoon of oregano, oregano it should be. In this case, I'm going to use some of my home dried oregano because I have run out of my regular oregano, and this is oregano that I grew in a little pot outside my kitchen, and the thing grew really, really well. So I just put it into my dehydrator for a few hours, and now I can just put them in the palm of my hand and grind them up. And I've got some fresh ones. I'm going to do that one more time because that wasn't quite enough. You want to do it when the leaves are small so you don't end up with a bunch of stems and stalks, but there you go. Use what you have, right? Then we're going to add some paprika. If you've got smoky paprika, now would be the time to bust it out. I'm just down to the regular paprika, and we're going to put in 1/2 teaspoon of that. And 1.5 teaspoons of cumin. There you go. This is one of my favorite spices that I've really learned to cook with and enjoy a lot. And 1/2, or a little more in my case. And 1 teaspoon of salt. And 1 teaspoon of pepper. Why do I keep putting that back on there? And give it a good stir. Now, I'm just going to put this into a jar, but this is probably the amount I would use if I was making one batch of tacos. So it's probably, I should have measured it into a cup to give you an idea, but I think it's about a third of a cup. Yeah, if I was guesstimating, I would say it's probably about a third of a cup, which would be the equivalent of a package that you would buy in the grocery store. So definitely think about that. The next time you go to get taco seasoning, have a look at the ingredients on the back of the package, and if there's anything on there you're not satisfied with, come back and get the recipe and prepare to make your own taco seasoning blend. There are maybe things in this blend that you would like to change up, add a little more chili or red pepper flakes or whatever it is, and yeah, feel free. This is what it's all about, sharing and learning. I think I have one more recipe for you, and then, or one more blend for you, and so I will be right back. Thanks very much. This is the last of the seasoning blends that we're going to work on today, and I hope that you found some of them useful. I'm not advocating any particular brand, or nor is any of this sponsored, but it's all stuff that I can get locally in my community, and so I'm hoping that you can, when you go to look for it, you can do that as well. So this recipe I've cut in half. I will put the full recipe up on the description box below, but I'm only doing it by half because it's a lot. So into this bowl, I have added a half a cup of sugar, a half a cup of salt. I have added 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons, a quarter of a cup of pepper, I'm going to add a quarter of a cup of garlic powder. Oops, get the right one. A quarter of a cup of garlic powder. Two full teaspoons of chili seasoning, chili powder, not seasoning, powder. I'm going to add a quarter of a cup of paprika. Get away. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of parsley. Oh, I'm getting lids all over the place. Does this happen to you? I don't know. Holy, it's like a whole game to get them all back on again. And lastly, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of turmeric. Now, and here we go. 2 tablespoons of turmeric. Whoop. Man, one of these days I'll learn, won't I? Measure over here, or dump it over here. Bam! There you go. That's what it's all about. Now I'm going to mix it up. Give it a good stir. I'm going to dip. I know. Love it. That's perfect. So if you find that any of these recipes that you've seen today, these blends and mixes, are useful to you, it warms my heart. If you thought a little bit further down the road how you could use these in a different way, you could definitely make up your own seasoning blends, put them in small decorative jars and give them as gifts. That way your friends too would be able to have these spice blends that don't contain any added ingredients that we really don't need to help them stabilize or whatever. So please, if you've liked this, subscribe to our channel, just like the video, share it with your friends. That would be one way that you could help us. That would be fantastic. Thank you very much. I hope you're enjoying your day and that wherever you are, you're staying safe. I'll see you again soon.